Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Conroe ISD Safety and Security Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, June 1st. It is 3:30. We will start today just with the acknowledgement of what's been a really hard week for public educators in our state and nation in general, just with the tragedy of Uvalde. I think it's this group has understood the importance of this committee and what we do each day to make sure our children stay safe. But when you have instances like that, it does bring it to back up, not only in the front of mind, but really front of heart and emotion. And so appreciate you all being here for this worthy discussion. This was a regularly scheduled meeting for us, so not one necessarily in response to the incident last week. This is a group that has been meeting in Conroe ISD regularly. So we'll start today with public comment. Do we have anyone here that is prepared to make public comment on any of our agenda items today? Seeing none, we'll move forward then to item 1, which is consider approval of the minutes from our last safety and security meeting, which was back on March 29th. And I'll just highlight a couple of our big presentations from that meeting. We heard from our guidance and counseling department about mental health initiatives, awareness, and our current programs here in Conroe ISD. And we also heard information about our Montgomery County Special Threat Response Plan. And so I think to go back and see that we were talking about both of those items in March is very significant. But I think you've all had a chance to review the minutes, and I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes. A motion by Ms. Wagaman, second by Mr. Moore. Any comments, corrections, changes to the minutes? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes as presented? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Minutes are approved. All right, we'll move to item 2, receive information regarding planning and construction summer campus safety and security upgrades and improvements in Conroe ISD.
Okay, we're going to start off, and Mr. Phillips, Danny Phillips, is going to get us going. He is our Assistant Director of Planning and Construction. He is going to lead us through the topic.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Noel, committee. Currently, we are on our 3rd phase of our safety and security bond package that we've been working on. We've got 2 more. We have 5 phases in this package. The 3rd phase consisting of 8 of our schools that we started in January of this year and will continue to work on during the summer throughout the end of the year. We're about 40% on each one of these campuses. Each one of these campuses consists of multiple items that we, as you guys know, that we put up on the secure vestibule with the front entrance, the secure impact resistant filming that we put on them. Some of the other items are the system upgrades throughout each one of these facilities, the fire alarm upgrades, the access control, exterior, interior, some of the first responder antenna systems that go in there, and then of course one of the other items is our interior campus radio systems. Like I said, we're about 40% on each of the 8 campuses.
So just to speak to of the camera and server upgrades, we're currently looking right now, we're approaching 14,000 camera views with 171 servers, and we're excited about that. Also, it's of note, we have added another person within the department. A special kudos to Doug Holland and Bob King. They do a great job overseeing the cameras and servers, which is a massive undertaking. So we appreciate them as we continue to add. They do a great job. It's worth noting, as Mr. Phillips alluded to, we continue to add the electronic access control for exterior doors, which will allow you with a badge that looks like this to be able to access a building that you're coded for. And we're able to use it for employees and staff, but it's also really helpful. And we'll be talking about this later in today's program for kids or staff that are accessing coming from a portable building. So we'll talk about that. That is a really neat thing that we're doing that as a principal, it worked fantastic and really appreciate it. eliminated a lot of the need for traditional keys and more importantly, distribution of keys. So excited about that. Entry and exit door alarms are available, and we continue to add, as part of Mr. Phillips alluded to, the safety and security package. And what that does, it allows you to know if I am in the front office of a building that a door has been opened that is not supposed to be open. And it could be an accident of a staff member who didn't scan out on the way out. But we have students that we need to take care of that are elopers, and eloping is a real thing, not to get married, but to leave the building if you're a kid. And so as we do that, it's really helped us with that. We're really excited about that. And so it's a big deal. I think Mr. Muir is going to talk about a couple of things in a little more detail, the last two bullets.
Yes, thank you. A couple of things we've added recently has been a response. The BDAs, we have placed those in there. What those are is bidirectional antennas. Okay, is this working now? Okay. And what that allows it to do is when first responders come into a building, it actually functions much like a repeater. It takes their signal and will send it out to the county towers. For example, Montgomery County's on the 800 megahertz system with the Sheriff's Department handling that. So if a fireman, police, EMS comes into our building, we know they've got coverage wherever they are in that building, and their radio can get out to call for more assistance if needed and such. It's such an elaborate plan that actually when they go through, the fire marshal's office comes through and checks those buildings and does quadrants and does squares to see how intense the coverage is. And Montgomery County has got a really high standard for that. So when our vendors come in and help us with that process, they have to go in with specialized equipment to see how well that's working. So that's been an exciting thing that we've seen come forward over the last few years. And what we've been doing is that's an all new construction. And as we touch the buildings in safety and security updates, we go back and add those too. At the same time, because we're putting an antenna on top of the building, we determined it was appropriate to go in, and with our campus staff, we use digital radios now. We were able to get a grant last year, and we've got digital handheld radios in for the campus staff to use. And at the same time, we put in a repeater for those. So if I'm on a campus, I've got a repeater in that building, and I've got 2 channels on my radio that are repeater channels, and I can operate off of those during the day, and I can hit that, and it will go anywhere in the building. We used to, having been on the campus before in McCullough, we had a lot of dead spots. For example, you could be in an area and you wouldn't be hearing it come through. But this also gives us a really great way for staff to do that. We use it at our stadiums too. And we plan to take those forward to where those radios are functional, where they can grab them and take them all over the district and use them at other sites too with some talk around channels. And that's been a real help for us in the long run too. So those things we put in at the same time and we're able to use.
And if I was a civilian, I'd say, well, you have cell phones, and we do have cell phones, and there are times that you need to use a cell phone. But I will tell you, as a campus-based principal for over 2 decades, there's times I need a walkie-talkie, and I need somebody now. I don't have time to be fumbling through my phone or talking to Siri. I need someone right now. And so the digital walkie-talkies are really a game changer. And through the grant, we were able to get campuses a lot of them. So it's just really been a boon to what they do. So we're excited about that.
In addition to that, Mr. McCord, I forgot to mention too, we were able for district staff, key district staff, to have some of the 800 megahertz radios to have in the event of an emergency coming down the road. So like yourself, Dr. Null has a radio that they're able to talk, and our bus system is on that same radio system. The transportation department is on the 800 megahertz system. So anywhere one of our buses go, and we've gotten reports that they're picking up all the way to Galveston and all the way to Dallas nearly, coming on that system. So, but we can talk to them in the event of an emergency also, and key district staff can too.
It's also worth just making the point that cell phone coverage, just the way our buildings are built, it's very likely that you'll be in a place that you won't have cell phone coverage in one of our buildings. So those digital radios are critical.
Mr. Phillips, I'll let you speak to this slide.
This slide here is a reference to what we started with back in once we received the approval of our 2019 bond for the safety and security package. In 2020, you'll notice that the 6 schools that we've got up top, we've completed those. 2021, sorry about that, 2022 package is the 21 package is the 9 schools right below it. And then the 2022 package is the current 8 schools that we're working on. The next lines on the far right side, you'll notice that in 23, we have 7 more schools slotted for that. And in 24, we'll have 9 more schools, which essentially takes care of our district. The group of schools to the far right on the other side has been incorporated into our campus renovation packages or updates of any sort. We try to incorporate those into that. And that's what this package, this slide here is for.
To be clear, the ones in 2022, we're looking at those are the ones you're working on now?
Currently, there's 8 schools, that's labeled there, and I can read them off as needed, which is Darrichin, Colson Tough, the Woodlands 9th grade, Burnham Woods Elementary, Broadway Elementary, Snyder, Cox Intermediate, and of course, Oak Ridge 9th grade. Those are the facilities that started in January and is currently about 40-45% ongoing.
So it's a big job, and there's a finite amount of time
It is.
because kids and staff are coming back, so we need to get them completed, so it's on, so.
I think it's worth mentioning here too, Chris, just the debt of gratitude that we have. Go back to that bond committee that was formed to consider the bond back in 2019, the board that approved taking the bond to the voters, and then our community for the passage of this bond that is allowing this investment in security at every building that started back with that bond passage. So we're certainly appreciative that we're able to do this work.
If I can add, each one of our new schools that we build, as you guys know, consists of this same package. Any updates that the district brings in, such as the BDAs or the 8mm film at the front entry, or one of the things that we don't often speak of is we've enhanced, Dr. Hines several years ago, about 4 years back, we had selected a new door hardware for each one of our classrooms. Each one of those classrooms have indicators on them, meaning that you can sit at your teacher's desk and know if the door is either red or green. And if it's green, that means it's not locked. And if it's red, that means the door is locked. And those indicators have been a recent topic of conversation with the fire marshals that I've been speaking with over the last few days. And they appreciate that. So that's something a lot of people don't realize, that we have a special lock on each one of our classroom doors, just classrooms, not any other room, but classrooms. They have an indicator lock on them. So that's something we put into play about 4 years ago.
So any committee input or questions regarding summer safety and security upgrades? Anybody? Anyone?
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Phillips, appreciate that very much. And, you know, as we know, school safety is, there's a myriad of things that we have to think about, and we prepare and we talk about things like an active shooter that happened in Uvalde with the hopes that we'll never deal with it. But there are also countless things that we talk about all the time that we know we are going to deal with. We know traffic's going to be a problem. We know that there's going to, be upset people arrive at our campus. We know there's going to be custody disputes that happen on our campuses. We also know that there's going to be weather problems that we are going to be forced to deal with. And hurricane season is here. And while we hope that we won't deal with one this year, we know that our time will come just based on our geographic location. And so let's talk a little bit here about our hurricane preparation.
Hurricane preparedness. I think we do know, like Dr. Knoll said, they are going to come. I've been lucky enough to head up 3 different shelters with people, many people within this room. And just knowing what's coming, it's when and not if. Just things to note that are important. You know, we are really lucky to live in a day and age, and I was thinking back to the Galveston hurricane in 1900 when they had no advance warning whatsoever. We take for granted that we have so much information coming to us that will allow us to prepare, and we really are cognizant of that information and try to work ahead constantly. We got lucky last year. We cannot assume that we'll get lucky this coming up year. But one thing I will say is we pay attention so we have time to make coordinated decisions. We are looking at the predictions by NOAA of an above average, above normal season for hurricanes. We'll see how it turns out. We have a lot of resources, including the Perry Weather app. We have a district weather app, which we use for a lot of reasons to monitor weather, but lightning being a major one, because lightning safety is another component of safety. We have meteorologist support. We have community resources. I owe a debt of gratitude 3 different times. The Woodlands Township saved me by providing pool deck chairs for people to sit in when we were hosting a shelter. And so I appreciate their continuing help and support for that when we need it. But there's just, it takes everybody working together. So Mr. Barton's going to talk about some specifics here about campus preparation. And so here's Ethan.
It's just normal things that we do, of course, with that advanced warning. We're fortunate again for that. And so a lot of things go into play that just happen behind the scenes that people don't know about it. Maintenance is awesome. You know, windscreens is a big thing on all of the fields. They're expensive, so they make sure that, you know, those are taken down or secured properly. Everything that's on the ground's moved because of high winds, so it's not flying around. Technology, should we have a flood, we've had a couple of those recently. It's always good to get things off of the ground that could be saved, so that's part of the plan as well, just to kind of mitigate things that could be a potential problem and cost us money. Ice, I mean, I know for a fact the last one that, as Mr. McCord will say or has said, that took a hard right at the last time and missed us, fortunately, I was in the basement of the jet filling up 47 ice coolers and throwing them in the freezer just to make sure that we had it, and I know it happened at every other campus. Food and water is another thing. We think back to Harvey. We were running all the food through our stadiums and such like that. So there's a lot of stuff that we do in preparation, making sure that volunteers are staged and somewhat available, because it's going to be up to them should we have to open up any shelters, and then of course buses or any other district resources that are used. And then there's one thing on there about PD response that.
So, Captain Blakelock, I know you and I have worked together 3 times or more, but do you want to speak to the police response in preparation for hurricanes?
You bet. So we just want to make sure that everybody knows that in an emergency like that, the police department goes on a call up, and everyone comes in, and they work 12-hour shifts so that we can provide extraordinary police service throughout an event like that. So our officers will come in, and they're going to provide security at any of the shelters that we open, and we staff, which is a big deal. And we are going to escort any of our buses. Our buses often are used to evacuate people from different areas of the county, and we send our officer with each bus when they go to help them navigate the roadway, but also make sure that they're safe. And then our officers can be used for delivering supplies, picking up things, and moving people and making emergency communication to families and things like that as well. And that happens immediately when we're faced with one of these events.
Ethan?
Because we're on portables.
Oh, I did. Andrew, there we go. I don't know why it's doing that. Andrew, could you help me out? We'll get the portables. Hurricanes. There you go.
Yeah, and it was alluded to earlier with the district resources. Of course, if a hurricane does happen, there's going to be a county or countywide resource need, and they turn to us for a lot of things, buses being the most specific one, and then of course anything else that they do request. It all goes through the Montgomery County EOC, or the Emergency Operations Center, through myself, and then fanned out to make sure that everything is appropriate, but we partner with them in order to do that. There is a board resolution that was adopted in 2018 that alludes to that, you know, an MOU, a memorandum of understanding that, you know, should that be the case, if they ask for things, that we would have a willingness to provide them, of course, within reason. And then it's based, everything when it comes to a hurricane is based on the availability, of personnel, equipment, and then other forms of requested assistance. And so we all think back to Harvey, when every bit of this came together and all of our resources were used, shelters were put in place, et cetera. And all the shelters, it's location, accessibility, and volunteers. Last time, fortunately, it was only College Park that was open for a short period of time. And then that was closed down, and everybody was fanned out to Lone Star, and then just right behind at the Woodlands Church. And so the second portion of that, Mr. McCord, is going to be yours.
Well, I was going to speak specifically to pets, and I was speaking to a few of you before we started. Having done 3 of these, many of the years when I did them, I did not have a dog. But I will tell you this, now that I have a dog, I totally understand. And being a shelter coordinator, providing for pets, it is a big deal. It is important to families to know their pet is taken care of. And I didn't put a bullet on it, but I will also tell you that you also become a de facto entertainment coordinator. I'm not there doing stand-up, but we are finding resources and things to do to keep people entertained, and it matters. So those things matter, so that's what we have there, so.
And then the buses and the personnel and the volunteers, it's been covered. I jumped ahead, so go to the next one.
See, okay. Steve?
Yeah, we're good. And then it goes back with the radio purchase with Steve, and the kind of the correlation with that, especially when it comes to emergency response. I think you covered it a little bit, but.
Yeah, back to that, the same thing that occurred is we've got the ability now, we didn't have this in the past. We were relying on cell phones, and some of the towers were down, and I remember back with Dr. Stockton and I being able to talk because I had a Verizon phone, and there was very limited service back in Ike. But that said, with the radios we purchased now that are on the 800 megahertz system, we have a couple of channels that are dedicated to command staff to be able to talk to each other. But then they have the ability now with the transportation department to be on there, to be able to call the Conroe Center director and get a hold of them and say, I need buses here. So we've got that ability now that we didn't have in the past with the county's help and the purchases and Matt's help on getting that planned out. And we've got the ability to talk to PD at the same time too. So there's really a lot of more communication available to us with that 800 megahertz system, which is rock solid and covers the entire county and beyond. So we're really pleased to have that.
And just to give you an idea how that works, so like I have one of those radios, it just stays in my office, but when we are gearing up for an event, then, you know, we circle up, we go making sure those are charged, then we take them home so we know we have them ready. So like we don't carry them around all the time, but when we reach an emergency situation, that's when we pull those out and make sure they're ready.
So while we're here talking about hurricanes, I cannot go through this topic without saluting Marshall Schrader and the job that the maintenance department does. It's unbelievable, from generators to cords to just all these ancillary items. Also, a special salute for a couple of decades. Strategic leader in planning for this and helping us respond would be Dr. Chris Hines to my right. Cannot say enough about him and making it happen. So he has been the center of the Venn diagram for many of our hurricane evacuation shelters. So thanks to him. So see if I can go one slide, but while I try to go one slide, Andrew, any questions regarding hurricane preparedness or anything related to hurricane shelters? Anyone? Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate that. We'll now move to item 4, consider approval of the Conroe ISD multi-hazard emergency operations plans for the 2022-2023 school year. And as a committee, now there may be some conversation here that we'll need to have as that would be of sensitive in nature that we would not necessarily want to share publicly. And so we're going to move our meeting now into closed session. So the committee will go into closed session pursuant to sections 551.076 and 551.089 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Any action, vote, or decision of the committee with regard to any matters discussed in closed session will be made when the committee returns to open session. The time is 3:53. All right, the committee is now in open session. The time is 4:33 p.m. Our next item is to consider approval of the Conroe ISD multi-hazard emergency operations plan.
And as we had spoken about before, the revisions are there. Of course, they're already in the document. We just need a full approval moving forward into the next school year. And so the changes are up there that we had talked about. And so at this time, it's going to be really the only thing that's not in there yet is the addition of that before and after school plan to provide to everybody that has somebody there before, after school, coaches, sponsors, et cetera, in order to kind of condense the entire MEOP into what we believe is the most important thing for them to have for before and after school. Of course, school hours, the entire document, however, before and after that information. So then, I guess at this time, it would be if there's no additions or adjustments that you all feel would be or need to be made, that we approve that document for the next school year. And then, of course, we would continue to do this more than likely every summer session. And so that information will be sent out after the second meeting next year for the third again as well. So, but at any point in time, if there's any addition, adjustment, revision that needs to be made or you believe that needs to be made to that document, feel free to email me, give me a call, and we can make the adjustment if necessary or if approved by everyone.
So I would accept a motion to approve. Captain Blakelock, a second. Mr. Moore, any comments, questions, conversation on that? All those in favor, say aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay. It passes. Thank you very much. Do we have a date set yet for our next meeting? It's in the fall, is that correct?
That's correct, and we do not, it would probably be best to get through that first couple weeks of school to figure out. I think last year it fell around in December, which kind of was a good time, but I think right now maybe a little bit early.
Okay, so we can communicate out via email, a future meeting?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns before we wrap up? Okay, thank you all for being here. Appreciate you so much. We will adjourn at 4:35.